Hey, Count Out to the Geeks. We're back again with another writer to talk about three titles that she worked on. Zoe Tunnell has worked on Godzilla, Valentine, and then she has worked on Power Rangers Rita, Rewind. And then currently that's going to be dropping this week is the Marvel Pride, Voice Pride issue that's going to be dropping. So we're going to get to talk to her about how she got into writing and in the industry. And we're going to quick shout out to Dragons of Alamo Ranch. Of course, without them, we wouldn't be doing comic reviews. If you are a D&D player, if you are 40K, if you are a Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, anything that you like gaming, that's a place you want to go. And of course, comics. So you got 2 in 1. You can do everything there. And then also, let's not forget about Casa. They're going to be having their show in November 15th at the Red Oak Ballroom at NASA at Norris Center. Of course, that's going to be where you're going to have independent writers, independent artists, Marvel comic artists, DC comic artists, and writers, where you get to meet them. You can bring your books, get them signed. That's a place you want to go if you're a comic book collector. And let's not wait any longer. Let's get Zoe in the room. Zoe, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to out of your busy schedule to come on and talk about your book, the books that you've worked.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always I always like talking about the books. It's great. So yeah, absolutely happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So I've heard that you used to review these books before.
Yeah, yes, I did. I was a critic before I was a writer. Which I live in fear of another writer realizing that I wrote a review that wasn't particularly glowing of their book. But everyone's very professional. Everyone knows, hey, sometimes a bad review is just a bad review. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I was a critic and essayist. I wrote for a few different sites for a couple years before I got into actually writing the comics myself.
So getting back, so when did you realize, I mean, that you decided you wanted to get into comics? I mean, this is something that's a unique, I say genre, but a unique job that not a lot of people can do. I mean, there's fans out there, they say, oh, I can write it better. You know, did you go to school to prepare for this, or where was it that you decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do? Where did that take place?
Well, I first got into comics probably like I was like 12, 13, somewhere around there. First comic I ever read was Ultimate Fantastic Four. And I was just picked it up at an airport. We were like doing family vacation stuff, and I was like, well, this looks cool, and there's constantly playing commercials for that movie. Might as well read it. And here I am now, 20 years later. But as far as writing them, I always wanted to be a writer. I wrote all the time. I actually initially went to college, of which I dropped out. But I went to college for first screenwriting and then English writing. But yeah, so I always wanted to be a writer. And comics always seemed like they would be such a fun thing to get into writing. And what I struggled with was finding artistic partners to do it with, which I is a common struggle for folks that don't like. I hate to say don't know how because anyone can teach themselves art through some way. So like it's not a case of like it's impossible, but it took a while, but then I got my start with Blade Maidens, which is the web comic that I co-created with Valentine M. Smith. Still ongoing, going to be coming to print with Dark Horse.
Nice.
That one, unlike the other comics here, that one's for mature readers only. So just a heads up on that one. But got my start there, and then from there, got Godzilla, and then Marvel and Power Rangers, and it's just been kind of a wild ride ever since.
Dang, that is crazy. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, right now we're in the world where, okay, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I fell in love with podcasts when Smith came out with his. He started doing his little podcast that he was doing, and this was years ago. And now podcast is everywhere.
Oh,
Um,
all over the place.
yeah, and the thing is, radio has kind of faded away. Majority of the time, it's all commercials now. Now we can create the channels that we want and talk about what fans want to hear. Not This is one of the things that I've realized with reporters who interview either actors or comic book writers. It's just I don't know, they just seem to come out dry, same questions over and over.
Mm.
You don't get that interaction with the writer and the interviewer. It's just more like, okay, that person's there for a job. He really doesn't know who he's interviewing, and it makes it, you can see the difference. And
Yeah,
that's what I want to bring here.
having done quite a few, this is like my fifth, sixth podcast I've done ahead
Nice.
of voices dropping. Which also, just to for because I know someone at Marvel will be grumpy at me if I don't do this. The official title of the issue is Marvel United: A Pride Special.
There you go. Yeah.
But so yeah, ahead of Marvel Pride dropping, and it's like, to be clear, hey, every other podcast I was on, it was a lovely experience. Thank you for having me. I have no complaints. But yeah, like you can tell, like some people, it's more of a like a factory kind of like ask about this, ask about this, ask about this. Thank you for your time, etc. So yeah, it's always nice to get a chance to answer different kind of questions.
Nice. Now, your geekness, where did you well, for one, Ultimates was a great series when it was out, and it was hard to see it go away at that time frame when it
Yeah,
went away. But the one thing that came out of it is we got Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury because of that.
we did.
Yeah, so that was one of the good things. But it coming back now, it is a hot title currently.
Oh, I cannot get enough of the current Ultimate Universe. I think it's such a wild, creative, like just storm of storytelling. Like Ultimate Spider-Man is such a crazy combination of like everyone's been clamoring for like a married dad Spider-Man, but it takes that and you think like, oh, I know what the series is going to be, and then upends everything else around it. So it's like, oh, I wasn't ready for all of the I wasn't ready for Harry Osborn's whole deal here. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And then Ultimates is just out of this world. Like every single issue, I'm just like, how are you pulling this off? I'm so professionally jealous of this. But yeah, I while I will always miss the original Ultimate Universe because it's near and dear to my heart, I'm really, really enjoying the current like revamp of it. I think it's great.
Yeah, same here. I love the Hawkeye they introduced.
Oh yeah,
And
the new Hawkeye Charlie, they're great. I love them.
yeah, and it is just so much. We're here to talk about you. We're not here to talk
Yeah,
about that. But it made they're great series to read.
yeah,
And since that's your favorite that you started off with Ultimates was your start off. Where other
yes.
issues did you gravitate from there after that?
Well, after that, like, I was buying Ultimate Universe trades at my local Borders to age myself. Uh, and like, every weekend I'd go and grab another one. And then
Wow.
once I finished that, I kind of jumped into broader comics, like, like Scott Pilgrim was really big around this time. So I got into
Oh
Scott
yeah, yeah.
Pilgrim. And I got into Immortal Iron Fist to the point where my first tattoo, it was the
Nice.
actual Shao Lao symbol. Yeah, and just from there, like everything all over the place. And it never stopped. It's one of the few hobbies. I think like the two hobbies that I have maintained my entire life have been comics and video games. Everything else kind of comes and goes, like hills and valleys of interest. Those two steady as a rock.
Nice. So
Yeah.
what did you think about the news that dropped today that Iron Fist is coming back in the comic world?
Uh, I think it's great. Well, I think I love Danny. Danny is my sweet sweet kung fu billionaire. But I also love Lin Lei, the current Iron Fist. I think
Okay, okay.
I think he's great. So I hope they let them coexist. I don't know. Speaking as someone who is not involved in that story whatsoever and has no idea what they're doing, I hope we can have two of them sticking around because Lin Lei's great, and I think Iron Fist is a complicated character concept to have a blonde white boy be the face of. And I think Lin-Lei is a very long overdue whole wielder of the mantle.
True. I mean,
Yeah.
they did a great run with both Daredevils having Daredevil and Electro as
Yeah.
Daredevil. So, I mean, I can see them doing a great
And
run in that way.
and Iron Fists is so it's like there you go, perfect title. Don't need anything else.
True. I mean, that
Everyone,
is
it's like
true.
most people got two fists. You can have two of them. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the world right now for Marvel, I mean, even with DC, I mean, they're creating new characters with Absolute Wonder Woman. I
Hmm.
mean, Absolute
Cannot get
Batman.
enough of that book. Absolute Wonder
Oh,
Woman is outrageous.
I've never read any of the Wonder Woman's comics. I was into her in, Injustice and everything,
Mhm.
the cartoon series. Um, but when this series came out, her tattoo on the arms what drove me in. I mean, I saw that
It,
tattoo and I just fell in love with it.
I think Hayden Sherman's character design of Absolute
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is the best new character design we've gotten in 5, 10 years in superhero comics. Like it's so good.
So I have to ask, since you're a
Yeah.
Final Fantasy fan, so
Ah.
what were your thoughts on the sword?
Oh, it's great. I love that Wonder Woman just has the Buster Sword. I think that's great. Like zero complaints or criticisms. I think it's delightful. And when she whipped it out and made it even bigger, like made it like the size of a building, I was just hooting and hollering. It was great.
No, I agree with you. But yeah, right now the comic industry is giving us some good stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
they're thinking outside the box. I mean, and with this stuff, I mean, what we're here to talk about is you. And so you said that Godzilla was the first one that you actually got to write for. Um,
Yes.
so when you being a Godzilla fan, when we talked prior to
Mhm.
starting recording, how was it when was it they reached out to you or did you pitch to them or how
It
did that
was
process?
they reached out to me. David Marriott, who was at IDW, is now currently at Boom. Actually worked with him on Power Rangers.
Nice.
Reached out to me. It was just like, hey, would you have? I think you're a Godzilla fan. We've been mutuals for a while. I think you're a Godzilla fan. Would you have any interest in a project? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And then he went, it's a Valentine's Day special. And I was like, what? Huh? And he explained that they were looking for like a romance that where Godzilla is a heavily involved presence, but like the romance is between humans. Do you think there's anything you can do with that? And I came up with the kind of the cat and mouse, a rogue kaiju researcher of Piper Simmons and EDF kaiju response specialist and Tam Salvatore. And just had a ton of fun. And it was great. They let me pick what era of Godzilla I wanted to use, what kaiju. So I got to have I as a Godzilla fan, I am a diehard Anguirus girly. Anguirus is my favorite. So the fact that I got to sneak in Anguirus and Godzilla fighting
Nice.
in the if even if I never get another shot at Godzilla again, which I would love to, but if I don't, I got to write Anguirus and Godzilla fighting and Anguirus drop kicking Godzilla across a building. I'm good. I did it, so I'm cool.
Nice. No, it was a great run. Got great reviews. I
Yeah.
mean, how was okay, I have to ask, as you being a person who reviewed comics,
Ah.
were you nervous when when it dropped?
Not really. I'm of the opinion that reviews are for everyone except the people who made the comic most of the time. There are some that I think some reviews can have really insightful like interpretations or commentary. And it's well worth reading even if you were involved in the creation of the book.
Okay.
But I think for a lot of time, a lot of writers and creatives have a bad habit, and I'm not going to say I've never done it. So, like, I can't, of reading every review or reading every comment. And it's just like once you put it out into the world, it's out there. You can't, your hands are off the steering wheel at that point. So,
Yeah.
I was very happy with the response we got. We got some lovely reviews and like Auto Straddle and Comics XF, which I used to write at, which was a lovely. I would love to see that. That made me very happy. Um,
Nice.
but but yeah, like I wasn't really anxious about it. I was more just like I know that there are going to be negative reviews out there. I know that there will be issues. So I'm making my peace with it now.
No, and that's the thing. You can't, and this is the thing about this industry right now, and especially with all this, TikTok and Instagram, you can't make everybody happy. At the
Yeah.
bottom, at the end of the day, you could only do your best work, and there's going to be a percentage of fans that love it, and there's going to be a percentage of fans that don't. And hey,
The one thing I took that I was just like, you know what, we did it right there was we had because it was a queer love story, and Tam, one of our leads, is non-binary. Um, and I had people who wrote the type of reviews you would expect for a queer love story
of course,
misgender Tam, but they misgendered them both ways. They both identified Tam as a man and as a woman. And like, you know what? If they did it both ways, we actually did it right. Like, good job, us. We well executed.
nice. No, I mean, you are breaking boundaries. If people don't know, you are a trans lesbian, and you are
Yes, I
breaking,
am.
the windows of, writing for iconic characters now with Godzilla, and then also getting to work on Power Rangers. Power Rangers has a huge following. I mean, to this
Mhm.
day, people are still going to conventions. I mean, Ranger Stop is coming up soon.
Yep.
I mean, the love for Power Rangers is there, and you had the opportunity also to work on that. Um,
Yeah.
and you said you researched some of the stuff that you put into it. Now, without spoilers, because you know,
Yeah. Of
so
course. It's just not out until August.
yeah.
So don't. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything now.
So is this going to be that one shot of it, or
It is as of right now. There are no plans for anything further, but it is a 40-page one shot, so it's a nice,
oh,
big,
nice,
beefy special. Tango did the art for all 40 pages, and she is
wow,
so good. It's gorgeous. And it's just the one special. The one thing that I was requested was they said don't just adapt the plot of the game, because Reader's Rewind, if you don't know,
yeah,
is a Power Rangers beat 'em up game from Digital Eclipse that came out last year. This release is to tie into the physical deluxe editions that are releasing this year. And they just said just don't do a straight up adaptation of the plot and do something different, which I loved because I wouldn't want to do a straight up adaptation. It like you can play the game for that. But so I did have to research a lot of stuff, mostly because if you didn't play Reader's Rewind, it opens up at the end of the Once and Always Netflix special that came out a few years ago, where
nice.
because Robo Rita is the villain of that special. And at the end of that special, she's ripped open a portal in time and is wanting to go back and essentially like take out the Power Rangers before they're trained and ready and powerful, by teaming up with her younger self. And in Once and Always, they stop her before she can go through the portal. In Rita's Rewind, they don't. She goes back there.
Wow.
Um, and so I had to, watch Once and Always, do some research on all the characters because some of the Rangers in Once and Always came like after I didn't have any like memory of like Rocky. I was like, I'm sure I watched episodes with Rocky, but I was young. I don't remember. So I had to like, watch some old episodes, get like to lock into character voices and personalities.
Wow.
But yeah, Reader's Rewind. The premise of it is the Once and Always team. So Zach, Katz, Billy, Rocky, and Min, who is the daughter of Trini, are all go into the past after Rita, but because they
Wow.
can't risk getting discovered and breaking the time stream, they can't morph and they have to help out the Power Rangers incognito in the background. So essentially, while you're playing through Rita's Rewind, you can know that the events of this issue are quietly happening in the background the entire time.
Nice. I mean, that is cool. If you're a Star Wars fan, Dr. Aphra kind of is the same
Exactly.
premise.
Oh, Oh, I love Dr. Aphra so much. Ugh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of like that. While stuff's
Mhm.
going on in Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back,
She's in
she's
the
behind.
background up to
Y-
stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be freaking awesome that that's what you're
Mhm.
doing. Like, even though this is going on, but the backstory, these little things that are happening behind,
Mhm.
that's gonna be freaking awesome. I'm a big fan of time travel. I love Doctor Who.
Me too.
I love Terminator. I
Mhm.
can watch that stuff over and over. It's just something about time travel and
Yeah.
timey wimey, but that is cool. So getting to do that, and which is cool. I mean,
Mhm.
if you don't know, I'm friends with Steve Cardenas, and he played Rocky.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, he.
I hope he likes the issue. Oh no! Why did I have to? I could have said cat. I could have said I didn't remember any episodes with cat. Oh great!
uh, but no. Like I said, it's one of those things. Grew up because you're
Mhm.
younger, and I'm the older guy. But he grew up here in San Antonio
Mhm.
and went to school in San Antonio, and then ended up going and becoming
Yeah.
a Power Ranger. Um, but no, I am looking forward to this. I mean, the video game was cool. Once and
Uh,
always left us hanging, you know.
that's what we wanted to get. I will say, without any spoilers, Min is kind of the closest thing to a main character we have. And
Wow.
we really wanted to give her some more, like, I think it's a very fun issue, like it's a very fun, punchy, funny issue. But Min gets some nice emotional stuff, and Tango and I really wanted to make sure like it gives you a very satisfying like this is essentially like the epilogue to Once and Always emotionally. So we're hoping people really
Oh.
like it.
Well,
And
I
also
was act go ahead.
please pass on to Steve that Tango said Rocky was her favorite person, like her favorite ranger to draw in the issue. So please pass that on.
Oh, no, definitely. I definitely will.
Yeah.
Well, now that you bring that up, I have, the character Charlie who plays Min in
Hmm.
Once and Always. I have her on my list of people to interview.
Oh,
So knowing this now,
yeah.
kind of, it's gonna be pretty cool
Well,
to let her
great.
know that she has a big
I
story
Yeah,
part in
I
this.
would love it. I hope she reads it and enjoys it because the for me watching Once and Always as like someone who was a fan when I was younger, then kind of stopped following it, and then did this big research dive. Min was the most compelling character for me. I was like, oh, like this young, kind of angry, hothead ranger who is dealing with the death of her mom, and you also have the weight of course, the real life death
Yeah.
that's hanging over the whole thing. It's just hard.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to. Everyone is done right. Zach gets some great moments. Billy gets some great moments. Kat gets one of my favorite pages of the entire issue.
Nice.
But Min is really the heart and soul of that issue. I think.
That is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it. I can't wait to August now. I gotta go pre-order it. I hope there's gonna be variant covers. I'm looking
Oh,
for because
quite
I
a few. Yeah, there's a great one by Steve Gregson. I know did one. Let me look it up real quick because I don't remember and I don't want to get anyone's names wrong.
well, that's
Our
cool.
primary cover is by Tango. It's the one that's actually behind your head right now.
Nice.
Um, yeah, Tango did a great job. And here we go. Um, yeah, Steve Gregson did a variant cover, as did Jack Lawrence, and then there's a really gorgeous variant cover that repurposes some like key art from the game. That I think is going
Nice.
to be a wraparound variant. So that'll be really nice
Oh,
too. Yeah.
that's freaking awesome.
Hmm.
This is so freaking cool. I mean, okay, I'm hardcore. I mean, as you can tell, I have my all my Rangers right there in that
Yeah.
background. Um, it's it's one of those things. It's kind of okay. I'm a 49-year-old man who still watches cartoons, who's still
Yeah.
reading comic books. And you know what? At one point, I was just kind of like, kind of kept it in the thing, but now I don't care. I it's one of the things that a lot of people Star Wars wise didn't know. I mean, they
Mm,
didn't watch Clone Wars because they said it was a kid show, not really
mm.
knowing that this was going to tie into what we got in live action currently.
Yeah, and when Clone Wars wanted to punch you in the heart, it punched you in the heart. It did not hold
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
No, it did. So I take it you're a huge Star Wars fan too?
Yeah, I haven't kept up with a lot of the Disney Plus stuff as much, except for Andor. Andor is
Oh,
maybe my favorite Star Wars thing at this point. It's
no, it was
so
so good.
good. But
Yeah.
um but yeah, I love Star Wars. I'm big fan of the universe, the characters. I am, and oh boy, saying these words out loud is a dangerous thing, but my favorite movie is The Last Jedi. Um and I love it, but I know that is not necessarily a popular opinion all the time. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the franchise. Have been since I was a kid.
Nice. No, and that's the thing. The Last Jedi had its goods and bads, but it overall was an entertaining movie to watch. And one of the things about comic books, and this is one thing I tell when I interview people, it's comics, movies, TV is entertainment to take us away from reality so that we can isolate ourselves, block out what's going on in the world for that moment in time to give us either enjoyment or a horror film.
Mhm.
It's just to give us that moment, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's why I feel comics helps a lot. As a kid, for me, it helped me a lot. I had, one, I was dyslexic and I am dyslexic still, but
mm,
I've learned to live and adapt.
yeah,
But back then, you didn't know what that was. You just knew you had trouble reading,
yeah.
and comics is what helped me with my reading.
Well, that's so
And
lovely.
yeah, but the thing is, you know, back then, of course, it wasn't cool to read comics because it wasn't in
Yep,
my time. Yeah, but now D&D is freaking raging right now.
sure
You know,
is.
people are buying.
You can see the 8x8 Critical Role framed prints I have on my wall.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so I take it. When did you fall in love with D&D?
Oh boy. High school, I was a fourth edition kid. That's when I jumped in. Which a fourth edition has its issues. I'm not going to be like it was the best edition, but no, like it's what got me. And then kind of never left. I am what I feel like a lot of writers are, and I get stuck is the wrong word because I enjoy it. But I am usually slotted as the forever DM. And I've got an Eberron campaign I've been running with my friends and my partner for about a year and a half now. That's been great. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, I've loved D&D forever. It's I mean like not just D&D, like all tabletop games. I really want to try Daggerheart. It seems
I just
great.
heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love like Blades in the Dark, Thirsty Sword, Lesbians, like so many. There's so many great systems out there.
Wow. Okay, so I have to ask, since you're a Final
Yeah.
Fantasy fan, and
Oh,
I work at a comic book store,
mm.
and this past weekend, Final
Uh, I,
Fantasy Final Fantasy dropped in Magic. What were your thoughts on that? I mean, people who didn't play it were coming in buying the cards.
I so magic is a thing where I think the magic, like the setting, the characters, I think it's fascinating. I'm so bad at it. I'm terrible at Magic the Gathering. So awful. But I enjoy it as a franchise, and I think the Final Fantasy thing is I think it's really great how much it's captured like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Like I was watching The Righteous Gemstones earlier today, and there was an ad for the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering thing, and I was just like, why? Whoa! I'm getting a Magic the Gathering ad on HBO Max. What is happening? But I also want to
Yeah.
shout out a friend of mine, Crystal Frazier. She's also a writer.
Oh, nice.
She's written quite a few things. She actually was one of they was the first project she works at Wizards, works with Magic, and
No
the Final
way.
Fantasy like promotion was one of the first things she worked on, and I'm just thrilled it's been going so well.
No way. I would
Yeah,
definitely love to interview her. I would love to talk with her because
yeah.
okay, this is one thing working, and I have worked with Magic before in the past. I think what Magic is doing is genius. Doing the IPs like
Mm.
Spider-Man, SpongeBob, Deadpool, Final Fantasy, because it's getting people who don't play the game to even drop the money just because they want the artwork. Like Final Fantasy, I have people come in and they're like, "I don't play Magic, but I just want to get the cards."
I just want to get
And
a Sephiroth or something. Yeah.
yeah, and that was and
Uh,
I was like, "Wow, really?" They're like, "Yeah, I don't really want to play. I'm just looking for this particular card." I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
"Nice."
I get it. I think it's brilliant. I think as long and thus far they're doing a good job of it. As long as they maintain a balance between like the original, like the settings, and license stuff, I think it's great because I agree. Like, I think you get people interested in it. I mean, like, I have a friend who's deep into Magic, and they told me they were like, "Yeah, this is the best selling set they've ever done."
Yep.
And I'm just like, "Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with results like that."
No, it's true. That is the truth. Getting off track.
Yeah, yeah,
The Marvel that you got to work on.
yes.
Now this I'm gonna pull a picture up. Da, 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 da. So this one is the kind of the intro. Kind of tells you who's writing what story.
Hmm.
Can you talk to us about how were you? Did they give you an opportunity to pick what you were going to write, or they just gave
Yeah,
you what you were going?
it was fascinating. I was contacted by Michelle Marchise, who is my primary editor. I also talked to Will Moss and Lindsay Kohek. They're all
Oh, nice,
wonderful, great editors. But they reached out saying like, "Hey, would you want to maybe pitch a story for the special?" And of
nice.
course, jumped the chance. Would love to do it. And they told me what characters were already being used in stories, and then basically said like, "Hey, go nuts." They said like you don't only have to use our queer characters. You can like mix and match. You can have
Oh,
like
wow,
anything. And I pitched a few stories, and they narrowed it down to two, and they let me pick which one. And the one we went with is the one that the Bolter, which stars Black Cat and a personal favorite. Well, Black Cat is a personal favorite of mine, but also Sarah, who is a character who has unfortunately been in limbo for quite a few years at this point, and so being able to kind of
oh,
pluck her out and put her back on the table was a delight for me.
nice. So, how many pages are your arc is going to be? Like, how many pages?
Each story in the special is 10 pages,
Oh,
so it's
nice.
it's 40 pages of comics, and then there's additional essays, interviews. There's a wonderful interview with Jan Matthias. Oh, I hope I've never had to say his name out loud before. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. um, but yeah, there's some wonderful interviews and essays in there as well. But yeah, each story is 10 pages.
Nice. Now, was this your first time writing for Marvel?
It was a deeply surreal experience to just get. I remember I was sitting down, me and my partner were watching wrestling, and I just grabbed my phone and was checked, and it was just an email, and I was like, "Who's Michelle?" Click, and it was like Marvel Pride. Do you want to do? And I literally couldn't form the words. I just started going on my partner, and they were like, "What?" And I showed the phone, and immediately paused. And were like, "You have to reply to that immediately." Um, but yeah, it was a surreal. It was a great experience. I had a lovely time. The
Nice.
editorial process was great. Federica Mancian. Again, never had to say her name out loud. I'm so sorry, Federica. You're an angel. Um, was the artist on the story. Just a delight, incredible artist. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous story. One of the nicest people I've ever worked with in comics. She's a joy. I can't show it, both because it's on my wall and it's technically spoilers until Wednesday. But I mentioned to Federica, I was like, I'm bummed that you work in digitals because I would love to buy an original page off of you for my first Marvel story. I'd like to have that. She went and recreated a page of the story in inks for me and
Wow.
sent it to me. So I do have an original page from the story hanging on my wall.
Wow.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
that's so freaking cool. So when I interview artists, that's one
yeah.
thing I ask. I ask, are you? how are you still doing, because there's artists who all they do is digital, and you've got artists who do 50-50, and there's some that just do the covers or depending on what they're doing.
Mhm.
But when I interviewed my buddy Chad, he talked about when they only do digital, they're leaving money on the table because
Yeah,
you
because you can't sell the originals, which like it's a toss up because you don't have to buy materials for
yeah,
digital. The workflow is usually much faster depending on how you work as an artist. So like I get the people who choose to work that way.
yeah,
But yeah, it was a true joy to get like that in the mail and be like, oh my god.
nice.
Um,
That's
but yeah,
freaking
Federica
awesome.
and then Tamra Bonvillain did colors. Tamra is, for my money, one of the absolute best colorists in the game right now.
Wow.
Frankly, I was amazed we could get her for the story because she's so busy. She's busy doing World's Finest and Justice League over at DC and Supergirl, which just launched. Like she's very in demand and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I felt so lucky to get her. And then oh my god, how am I? Ariana Maher did the letters. And I love Ariana. She's such a joy. But I also love that it gave us an entirely queer female creative team on our
Wow.
story, which was a special little thing. As for the other stories, just because I want to shout them out because they're all great. Al Ewing and Kizama do this absolutely buck wild Aaron Fisher escapade Loki story. It's absolutely nuts.
Nice.
Anthony Oliveira and Pablo Collar do a really lovely, heartfelt World War II set Steve Rogers, Arnie Roth story. If you're not familiar with Arnie Roth, he was a very early gay character in Marvel. He was revealed during DeMatteis's run of Captain America. So being able to tell a story about them in World War II, I think was really special. And
Nice.
then there's a really, really great Wyatt Kennedy, Bailey Underwood, Mystique Destiny story. And I'm feel honored. Bailey is a close friend of mine, and as another trans person in comics, being able to share our Marvel debuts in the same issue is a very, very special
Wow.
thing for me.
That is freaking awesome. And you
Yeah.
said who did the coloring again for your story?
Tamra Bonvillain.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's right now the way the world has changed so much. There was artists back then, it was normally local artists that would
Mhm.
get used. With the way the world is currently and with digital there and
Yeah.
the internet, I mean, there's artists in Argentina, you know,
Federica's Italian. Like she's in Italy. Like
yeah,
yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a very international book also because like in hell even in the states like there's people all over the place. Like I'm in New Jersey. I don't want
oh
to dox
nice,
anyone, so I won't say where Bailey is, but Bailey's not in New Jersey. But yeah, like all over the place. It's great.
nice. Jersey's a place I want to go because, of course, that's where they have the secret stash, and I'm a big
Hmm.
Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to. That's one of my bucket list of places to go is to the secret
Jersey's
stash.
great. I'm originally from Oklahoma. I
Oh
was
wow,
born and raised there, and then moved to Jersey a few years back. But yeah, Jersey's been wonderful. Super like of all the places to have to be my second home. I'm thrilled I ended up here in Jersey.
nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so okay, your writing process.
Mhm.
Everybody has a process on their writing. Um,
Yes.
Brian Puccilato basically says his is constantly going, and his notes are in his head. Erica Schultz has a book where she's constantly an idea pops up, she'll write in the book.
Mhm.
What is your process?
My process is I'll usually write down like if I an idea has to really dig into my head for me to want to write
Okay.
it. Like I do get like like that could be a fun idea. That could be this. Like blah blah blah. If something really sticks around in there for a few days and is just digging in, I'm like, okay, I got to write this down. But then for stuff like this, for like licensed properties like this, I actually I find working on licensed stuff very fun because it's kind of like a puzzle, because for an original story, it's a blank canvas. You are given free reign to do anything. For a licensed story, it's like you are reined in and you only have so much room, but you have to maximize the room you are given. So it's like,
Wow.
okay, I have to work with, like, like this character is currently dead, can't use them, or this event is happening, I have to, like, listen to, I have to tie into this, or so on. And
Wow.
I find it really fun. It's like a puzzle writing exercise.
Nice. I mean, it's a different process. That's true with
Oh, 100%.
IPs, and then also too in the crossover IPs. That's another thing in itself. You have to, with the when you did Godzilla, you could only use characters in that genre. You couldn't use
Hmm.
other characters that were out of that genre. And the same thing with the artist wise. When a writer and artist gel together, that's I feel where it the comic is smooth, because if that artist is in your head and they're able to translate what you have on paper to create that splash page or battle scene,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I'm very much a, like, collaborative effort, because a comic is a collaboration. It's not. I'm very against the idea that, like, a writer is here to tell the artist what to do. Like,
Gotcha.
a writer is there to tell, like, the story, put the dialogue there, but the actual construction of the story as the reader is going to experience it is in the hands of the artist.
Correct.
And I'm very much a, like, I tell every artist I work with, I'm like, hey, if we're doing an original project together, I'm like, is there anything you want to draw? Is there anything you like to draw? Is there anything you don't like to draw? Let me work
Nice.
with you. But for licensed stuff, well, and for any projects, I basically go like, hey, at the end of the day, I trust your visual eye more than my visual eye, because you are the artist. So if, like, it turns out this page needs to lose a panel, or if, like, you want to add a beat here for, like, an emotional, like, moment to hit, do not feel like my script is, like, law. Feel free to do wiggle room. Just tell me when you do, so I can, like, adjust dialogue or whatever. And we have to make sure our editor is fine with it. But if as long as everyone is, like, Tango had a few instances in the Power Rangers special where she added, like, like, some extra panels to a page. She was like, hey, this fight scene's good, but I want to add some extra impact. So I was like, cool, great. Or, like, there was one where she was like, hey, I've drawn about 50 different kicks in this issue so far, and we're nearing the end. Can I make Min throw a trash can lid at him in this panel instead? I'm like, absolutely, yes. That sounds fun as
Wow.
hell. So
Dang.
yeah, like, I think it's a very, comics are at their best when it's a collaborative process. And I really enjoy that aspect of, like, working. And thus far, I've been supremely lucky in the artists I've worked with. They've all been absolute delights. And it's just been a joy. Like, I think when you get an artist and a writer and a colorist and a letterer, like, the whole creative team, when you get everyone who's working in sync, like, in unison, that's how you produce the best stuff.
No, I agree. It does, because that's showing the artist and writer putting the passion into it, and
Mhm.
it comes out, in the paper. Um, for the younger generation that's coming up and that want to become a writer or comic book writer, what would you tell the younger generation the process?
Right. Like, I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds like bad advice, like, the most, like, lazy, but at the end of the day, that's the truth. You gotta. I know so many writers, and I was one like this for a while, that would be like, I had this really cool idea for this thing, but I just can't finish it, or, like, I can't get it to. Here's the harsh truth of writing is that ideas are great, ideas are wonderful, ideas are beautiful. Ideas are not a story. You have to be able to put in the work, put in the time, and get something from an idea to a finished story. And the way you do that is you write, you build those muscles, you build that skill, and you're going to write bad stuff. I wrote bad stuff. I wrote here. I'm gonna be embarrassed. To the younger generation. here's a somewhat successful writer telling you how bad her stuff was. I wrote the outline for a fantasy novel when I was very young. I'm not very young. I was like 12, 13. And I was going to have the big secret of the fantasy novel be that this amnesiac prince was secretly a dragon the whole time. But don't worry, if you thought that would be like a good mystery to string along and have be a big reveal, I did make his last name Draconis. Um, so we all write bad stuff. It's how you get to write good stuff.
True. You learn. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and one of the things with interviewing creators and writers is everybody has their way of writing, and everyone that I've interviewed so far said the same thing that you did, is that
yeah,
you have to finish.
yep.
You can't say, "Oh, I
It
have an
it
idea."
it's an entirely like they're two distinct skill sets. Having a cool idea for a story and like getting, and then having the sticking with it and putting in the work and finishing it, even if it's not good. Like every story you've read that is good may not have been good when it was first finished, but it has to be finished for you to make it into something good.
True.
The best idea in the world can't become good because it's not finished. But a bad idea that is done, you can work on that. You can polish that up. You can clean that up. You can make it work and turn it into a good story.
That is true. Well, I don't want to take any more time, but I do appreciate you taking the time today to talk about
Of
everything that you have
course.
done. And I am looking forward to both of these stories. The Power Ranger one's gonna be too far away to have to wait so long. But
Just FYI, for everyone listening, final orders cut off for Rita's Rewind is the end of the month, so you got all of June to pre-order it.
yes, and I'm gonna be promoting it at our store for pre-orders
Thank
for people to
you.
come pre-orders. Because that's one thing I do. I do the social media page for Dragon's Lair, Alamo Ranch, to promote books like, hey, come pre-order your copy. Because what happens is some people, it goes under the radar. When it
Yep.
hits the shelf, there's like maybe 5 copies or 10 copies. By the end of Wednesday, that's
Yep.
it. It's done.
I every time I have an issue up, I do a little explainer of how important pre-orders are for comics.
Yeah.
Because it's such a weird system. Like no other like media functions the way direct market comics do in terms of like pre-orders and sales. So I feel like it's part of the process to be like, hey, if you don't read comics, trust me, you're going to want to pre-order because that's the only way you can guarantee you're going to have one.
Yep. That is true. So, guys, go pre-order your comics, because if not, you're not going to get your hands on it, and then you're going to be waiting, hoping it goes into second printing. And if it doesn't, you're going to be paying $15 to $20 on eBay for
Sure are. Yeah.
it. uh, but Countdown to the Geeks, thanks again for joining us.
Of course.
Zoe, it was great talking to you, getting to talk
This was
about
a
your
delight.
stuff.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. We'll catch you guys again.